Bundys Garage, Bundy here. Today we're working on a 2001 Honda Odyssey with a V6 J-Series 3.5 liter VTEC engine. This will also work for, Acura MDX, TL CLs, Ridgeline, Honda Pilot, Honda Odyssey, and of course the ever famous and popular Honda Accord, the V6. This particular van covers years from 1999 to 2004, but it'll also cover other applications later than 2004. The process will be similar, not exactly the same. The engine might not look exactly the same, but it will be very similar. Some of the key tools you're going to need for this, you're going to need a 3/8 ratchet, a 6mm hex tool, 10mm socket, a 5/8 spark plug socket. First thing to do, loosen up 4 of these bolts that hold this front cover on. So get those out of the way. We're going to be using Iridium NGK spark plugs that I picked up from O'Reilly. All 4 bolts are out. Go ahead and pull this straight up. Place it off to the side. Next thing you need to do, turn these 90 degrees. And this will pop right up. There you go. I picked these up from O'Reilly. Titan long hex key. 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.5, 2, 1.5. The thing I like about these is the fact that they're a lot longer than standard hex keys. So it lets you get just that much more leverage on them. The 6mm one to get these hex bolts out to loosen up the coil packs to get access to the spark plugs. So right here, here's a plug. On this side, there's a little clip tab. You squeeze that tab. At the same time as you're squeezing the tab, you pull up on the plug. It gets it out of the way. So go ahead, go around, get all those off. Then you take your hex key, go down to where this bolt is, and you loosen them up. Now that first one was already loose. So, then you go in there, loosen it the rest of the way. These valve covers are leaking. If you don't have a set of hex keys, you can always run and get a 6mm 3/8 socket. You can pick these up anywhere. O'Reilly, AutoZone, Home Depot, Lowe's. You just need it to be able to get these nuts loose, or these bolts loose, down here on the coil packs. So these valve covers are leaking. I have a video about replacing the valve covers. I'll put a link in the description below. Doing the spark plugs on this vehicle is not hard at all. The most difficult aspect of the whole job is on some of the different models. The firewall may be closer to the coil packs than on this one. I know on the TLs, you have a strut bar that goes to both towers, and that bar limits some of the access you have to the back. So they're all loose. I'm just pulling the coil packs out. When you pull these out, make sure that your rubber grommet here on the end is still intact. I've seen it where the rubber grommet actually stays at the bottom on top of the spark plug. Stops you from being able to pull the spark plug all the way out. Okay, the front 3 are out. Let's go to the front to the back. Same process. Get the 6mm hex key or a socket. Pull those off. Get those free and clear, loose. First thing I'll do, I'll reach back here, get all the connectors off the coil pack. Just squeeze the tab, pull up on the connector at the same time. Okay. Got those 3 bolts loose. Coming back here with the socket and getting them out the rest of the way. They're kind of hard to grab. You'll see when you get back there. They're a little bit, they sit flush with the coil pack, so it's hard to grab with just the bare fingers. But like I said, on other models, the firewall sits a little bit closer, so it makes it just a little bit more difficult to get the coil packs out. It is possible. Just take your time, have patience, and you'll get them out. Don't lose the bolt back here. See, here's one of them right there. With the last bolt out, go ahead and start pulling the coil packs out. Like I said, make sure that rubber end cap is on there. You don't want it staying down in the tube. We have to move this heater hose a little. Yep, had to move the heater hose up to get it free and clear. Okay, last coil pack right here. Okay, so that middle one was the hardest one to do because of this coolant line right here. Just had to move it up. Now it's time to get a 5/8 spark plug socket with an extension. 5/8 spark plug socket, an extension. Go ahead. Gonna work this down there. We're gonna start on the front first. You'll feel it when it grabs a hold of the spark plug. Coming in here, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Okay, there's the first one. Okay, next will be to go ahead and remove all remaining 5, the 2 on the front, 3 on the back. Take your time on the back. It's best to do this job when the engine is cold. Once we get all 6 out, we'll go ahead and replace them with new ones. Let me get the remaining 5 out, and then I'll show you how to put them in. Then we'll go from there, put the coil packs back in, and connect the connectors. It's not that hard of a job. It really isn't. Just, and I'll show you a trick on how to get the spark plugs back in without running the risk of cross-threading them. All right, so I'll bring you back online once I get all remaining 5 spark plugs out. I actually went ahead and changed out all the spark plugs except for this one right here, cylinder number 6. I went ahead and I used NGK ZFR 5FIX-112477 iridium spark plugs. Some of the best spark plugs you can get on the market. I would either stay with NGK or Denso. Some of the tools that I used in this job I want to show you with. 5/8 spark plug socket with a, what is that, a 4-inch extension. 6mm hex key to be able to get out the bolts that hold in the coil packs. This right here is a coil pack. Make sure that this rubber grommet right there does not stay down in the hole of where the spark plug goes. Just makes it much more difficult to get the spark plug out. You're also going to need a 3/8 ratchet and, you know, some additional extensions, 3/8 extensions like this one, 5/8 spark plug socket. I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but O'Reilly actually has one that's magnetic, which is pretty cool. I think I got this one from Lowe's. Yeah, Cobalt is Lowe's brand. A good practice is to coat the threads of the spark plugs with anti-seize. I picked this up from O'Reilly Auto Parts. I think they call it their pocket size. It's basically one use, so this was more than enough for 6 spark plugs. So basically what you do is you'll squeeze the anti-seize out. I've already coated the threads of this spark plug with anti-seize, but you just put it on there, just roll it around your finger, and coat the spark plug threads with anti-seize. This is a rubber hose. This is a 3/8 rubber hose that's 7 inches long. What I like to do is take the spark plug, go ahead, slide the porcelain into the rubber hose, and then lead the spark plug down in the hole so I can start the threads. I just cringe every time I see somebody use one of these, an extension, or run it down with an air ratchet, because you run the risk of cross-threading the spark plug down in the hole. And if you do that, you're going to be in a world of hurt. It's not a good thing. So I like to use this method right here. The the white tape is just white electrical tape. That way I don't leave it under a hood when I'm working on a vehicle. So basically you'll feed this thing down. You'll be able to feel when it actually starts to grab, and you can start the threads this way. Greatly minimizes the risk of cross-threading a spark plug. So that's what this whole setup is right here. So let me show you how I do there. So you run it down, drop it into the cylinder hole, and you'll be able to actually feel it when it grabs. Okay, it took. So I'm just spinning it by hand right here, throwing it down, and then after I do that, I'll go ahead, come in with my 5/8 spark plug socket, an extension, and finish it off that way. Make sure it's tight. Okay, that's about it. Pull your hose out, bring your 5/8 spark plug socket and your extension, drop this down. Like I said earlier, some of the vehicles that this engine resides in, that being a Ridgeline, Pilot, CL, TL, you have limited space on the back side of the engine to get the back side of the spark plugs just because of the firewall and where it sits. So it might take a little bit more time to fish these spark plugs out, but get them out of the way. I mean, just take your time and they will eventually come. So I'm just running the spark plug down right now. There's a torque spec for him. But okay, now it's bottom about right here, and I'll go about another quarter of a turn. Just a little bit more. Okay, that's it. Do not over tighten these. Pull out your spark plug socket. Okay, now it's ready for the coil pack. Coil pack, you can actually, if you really want, you can use some dielectric grease, put it in there. You can see some remnants of it down there. I actually decided not to, just because there's already some in there. I think we're okay. So go ahead and feed your coil pack down in there. You'll do this on the remaining 5 spark plugs as well. Find my bolt. Make sure it's the right one. 6mm hex. Go ahead and start that by hand. Bring in my 3/8 6mm here. You can either use this type or this type. It doesn't really matter. It just, you can get into tighter places with this than you can with this. In some instances, just because to have this work, you have to have a ratchet. This you don't. So I'll come in here, finish this off with the key, snug that down. Okay, you're gonna repeat that process for all remaining 5 spark plugs and coil packs. Another thing you need to do is when you engage the wiring harness onto the coil pack, you're gonna hear a click, just like that. And then a good practice is to go around before you put the cover on. Make sure all the wiring harnesses are in place and pushed all the way down. So just go ahead, run your hand down across all connectors, double checking that they're in place and secure. Okay, they're all in place. Coil packs are, spark plugs are in, coil packs are in, connectors are in, the bolt is in, securing the coil pack. Right here you can see all this muck and nastiness. I need to do the valve cover gaskets on this vehicle. So next thing will be to start this vehicle up, see if there are any misfires. If there are, go ahead, get a scan tool, find out which one's misfiring. I've seen it where brand new spark plugs have been cracked on the porcelain. So right here, the porcelain on the spark plug, these are the old ones, in fact, that came out of this vehicle. The porcelain can be cracked. There was a hairline crack on this one, not on this one, but on the spark plug that I did, leading out right from the very tip of the edge coming out. I didn't see it when I installed it, put the new spark plug in. There was a misfire right off the bat. And the crummy thing about it was the fact that I actually got the spark plugs from a dealership. But that being said, it's always a good practice to look at your spark plugs at the parts store before you purchase them. Just pop them out of the box, take a quick glance all the way around the porcelain, make sure no cracks. Make sure the tip is good, it's not cracked. and just take a glance at the threads before you actually walk out of the store with them. So next after that, after I start it, like I said, look for misfires. I don't think there'll be any because I actually checked all the porcelain on the spark plugs before I installed them into this engine. Then you'll put the cover back on, and you'll be good to go. This job isn't hard at all. It really isn't. Anybody can do it with the right amount of tools, and there aren't a lot of tools needed for this job. So save yourself some money and do the work yourself. Like always, if you have found any of my videos helpful, please consider subscribing to Bundys Garage on YouTube. Questions, comments, concerns, you can email me at bundysgarage@gmail.com. And I'm starting to be more active on Twitter, so you can follow me there as well. I'll put a link in the description below. And let me fire this thing up before I sign off to you guys. Do a real quick dummy check, make sure there's nothing in the way. And I'll fire this vehicle up. Fired up the engine, no check engine light. Give it a little stab, sounds good. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, if you have found any of my videos helpful, please consider subscribing to Bundys Garage on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter. I'm about to launch my website as well, and I'm working on a t-shirt design too. So that'll be coming up real quick. So I'm coming up on my 100th video. So I'm thinking about giving away something really cool. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And like always, I'll keep them rolling for you.